Wendy Edwards, and on the line with us this afternoon to talk about kids who have a lot of challenges to deal with as they return to school. Even though we parents may be dancing in joy that they're going back, remember it may be the most wonderful time of the year. There are kids who are going to have a hard time and they're not looking forward to it, and they may have the back to school blues. Maria Lucé is the empowered mom, and she's got some parenting tools to help us deal with these challenges. Good afternoon, Maria.
Hey, Wendy. It's great to talk to you again. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay, but I'm worried about these kids who really are not looking forward to getting back in the swing.
Exactly. And, honestly, it's not just the kids that can suffer from it. Parents can, too, because a lot of times, let's say if you're sending your little 5-year-old or 6-year-old off to kindergarten, that's a big transition.
Well,
or
that's
in a
true.
case like me, I have a son that's going into high school, so there's some trepidation on that, that's involved in it. But also, it tends to get really busy with school and extracurricular activities and, all the events and overscheduling. A lot of things can happen for parents and kids.
Well, yeah, and I think you mentioned overscheduling. That's a good thing to bring up because I think a lot of us don't know when we are overscheduling versus when we're not, because anymore, kids just don't play outside. You can't go out and play with your friends because no friends are on the street. Yeah. They're all going out doing something. So how do we know how many activities to limit our kids to so that they're not suffering academically or socially either?
Well, so you can just take academically. If their grades are suffering because they're trying to do too much, or they're just not able to do the subjects they're picking, right? Mm-hmm. Whichever way. But if they're not performing to the level which you would like, or they would like, or what they're capable of, then we have to look at that and look at whether or not they're overscheduled, and if there's anxiety and stress, and either within the child or in the household, then that is clues to, okay, hold on, we need to reevaluate where we are and what activities we're doing.
How many of us, though, would look back on our childhood and say, I wish I didn't have to play piano all that much? And we don't.
That's
we
true.
tend to go, man, it's a really good thing that our mom made us play piano even though we didn't want to, because look at us now. We can do this with our lives and we can do this in our career. So there's that questionable area where you don't know whether to pull or push with your child.
And it's so true, and I think this is where our culture is right now. A lot of times, parents and schools and just our society think that the more activities that we have our kids scheduled in, the more successful they're going to be in the future, right? That's not necessarily the case. So why are we putting all this stress on ourselves and anxiety on ourselves and our families and our children, which can lead to more serious blues and anxiety and depression?
All right,
that's more on the scale, But there are a lot of things that you can do right now to get your kids more prepared. Not just your kids, yourself and your household. Like, start getting their routine back to a school routine. And that's not going from, okay, they're going to bed at, let's say, 11 o'clock, and all of a sudden, okay, you need to start going to bed and going to bed early and waking up early. You can ease them into it, and that's a little less jolting to their systems, if you will. And then getting their stuff organized. Like, start saying, and you can do that in small steps, too, instead of tackling it all at once. Let's say, okay, let's just get our supplies today. Then maybe another day you can pack their backpacks. Also go up to the school, visit the school, see where their classrooms are. A lot of these things can get them ready and empower them.
Well, many of the things you mentioned are really built into the Charlottesville community. We've got, the list of school supplies are needed at our stores. So when you go in, you can pick your school list and your class list and go find the supplies that you need. It's really cool. And then we already have back to school business days. Yeah, those things are neat. But what I fear most, and what I hope you can help us with, and we only have a few minutes left, but
okay.
What I fear most, though, are those kids who really, truly don't want to go back to school because they fear being bullied, or they fear maybe they're just not cutting it academically, or they feel like they just don't fit in, or there's a massive struggle there to get your kid to go to school because they're depressed. What do you do in that situation?
And there's also, and I'm going to address that question real quick.
Sure.
But also, you have to look for those signs in your kids. They aren't going to come up to you and say, "Mom, I'm depressed,"
or I'm being bullied.
It can show up in their behavior or their sleep. They may not come out and say it because they might not even understand it or recognize it in themselves.
Well, what do we look for?
I'm sorry?
What can we look for?
I would look for maybe a change in their attitude, a change in their behavior, a change in sleep patterns. Oftentimes, depression doesn't come across as sadness. It can come across as irritability. Mm-hmm. And so you can look for those signs. And if there's a real concern, when your child's feelings about school interfere with their daily life, or their grades are failing, or they truly come up with sicknesses, then you might want to look at a medical professional.
Okay.
Because if they're that scared or frightened of school, then I believe you're right. There's something else going on that's underlying, be it bullying, be it some other reason. They're not cutting it in classes. Then you have to really, because then depression can set in. And that's a very scary thing. And you mentioned bullying. That's another topic. We should address it another time.
I mean, we can, but it's a matter of
bullying, and there's bullying in the schoolyard.
I know it. But it's all, with the back to school stuff, all the excitement and the rush of seeing your friends again is the rush of getting in these situations again that maybe you couldn't get out of last year, or you're afraid a reputation that you developed last year is going to follow you this year. And, there's so much that I know, kids think about. And I'll be honest with you, Maria, you are the empowered mom, which is great. And you do give great advice. But back when I was a kid, my parents didn't care if you got bullied or anything else. It was like, you're going to school, basically shut up and go. There wasn't any. And are we too sensitive to our kids, or do you think our parents did it wrong?
I don't think that. I think we have to, it's twofold, because we have to look at what life was like then. And guess what wasn't around that is part of our kids' lives now?
The internet.
Social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So the bullying can be incessant, and not just on the school playground, like the school bully. The school bully doesn't necessarily look like the big guy that chases a kid around the hallways. The school bully can be social media, and parents have to be plugged into what's happening. Because when you talk about that bullying, that's a real serious matter.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't have to happen on the playground. It can be happening to them 24 hours a day by social media or texting or emailing or any type of those things.
It's just awful.
And these are the type of things to address with your kids and have open conversations so that we can set them up for success and not getting into serious issues or, danger, frankly.
Well, I appreciate that you can help us with that, even just a little bit, because a lot of times it's really such a fine line to know whether you're being crazy, asking your kid to do too much, or your kid's just overdoing it and exaggerating to try to get out of something. Nobody's nobody's at your back going, you know what, this is truly a sign of something really wrong. Or nobody's there to say, you know what, stop trying to coddle this one. They're going to be fine. There's no book, there's no friend, there's nobody to tell you that. So we have to take the initiative with our kids.
No, you're absolutely right. And just as we just talked about, the world has changed. And it is what it is, so we have to address it. And we have to equip our kids with, empowering ways to cope and ways to behave.
It's really hard to do. I don't know.
On
the one hand, I look forward to the school year. On the other hand, I'm just like, okay, Maria, I'm just going to pull you into my home. You're going to follow me around every day and help me make decisions. The empowered mom, Maria Lucé, thank you for joining us.
Love being with you.
Love being with you, too. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks a lot.
All right, bye.